Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ferial Adam, and I am the manager of WaterCan. We are about to begin our webinar on water and women. I think that given that it's August and August 9th is National Women's Day, I think it's quite fitting for us to understand that the role and the relationship between water and women. I think sometimes people don't know about it, or they just under kind of emphasize the importance women play in monitoring our water resources, monitoring climate justice. Just as a side fact, I just recently read something from WaterAid, which talks about that over 200 million hours will be spent by girls and women walking to find water. That's 200 million hours, and that's a global statistic. I think in South Africa, we also have the challenges, and we have different challenges. We have access, in South Africa, we have challenges with water quality and water quantity. In terms of water quantity, we are a naturally water scarce country in terms of where we place geographically, the climate we have, and we don't have a lot of water to play with, in a sense. And recent experts have said that by 2025, we won't be able to allocate more water to any other new users. So whether you build more residential, more industry, there's going to be a constraint. And then also with water quality, I think more and more we see, and we just need to look at government's own Blue Drop report, Green Drop report, which is actually scary. You have more than 52% of our water treatment plants that are critical to high risk. We have more than 60% of our wastewater treatment plants that are in critical or high risk. And the reasons are varied. The reasons are either corruption, maladministration. It also could be that we don't have enough skills where we need them. We don't have the chemicals where we need them. So there are a range of reasons. Also, if we don't fix our infrastructure, and that's countrywide, we can see what's happening in Gqeberha. If we don't fix our infrastructure really soon, we're going to be losing a lot of our water. And if you look at some of the urban areas, they're losing at least 40% of its water through leaking pipes. And this is a resource that we cannot afford to waste as we are doing. In today's panel, we have a range of people. And, often when we talk about climate justice, water justice, we look at women as being the victim, where, it is the most vulnerable that will be affected by water injustice, by climate injustice. And the reality is that women are not only that, but they also the power to make a difference. They're innovators, they're agents of change, they're activists, they're making a difference all around them. And that is what today's panel is all about. Before I start, I just want to introduce the session. What we're going to be doing is I will briefly give you introduce each of our panelists, and maybe when I do introduce them, they can put their video on and just wave. And then we will have the discussion. We'll start with Aisha, and then we'll have Bulelwa, and then we'll have Taryn. In those, they'll have 10 minutes to speak. And after that, depending on time, we'll open it up for some questions and points of clarification, if that's okay. So that's the process. I think we need to also respect the speakers, and as they're speaking, to allow them to finish and not to interrupt as they go. I will be strict in terms of time. It is a lunchtime webinar, so people have to get back to work. So I will be strict on time. So for my first panelist, Aisha, if you can put your video on and just say hi. Aisha is a registered professional scientist with the South African Council for Natural Scientists in South Africa. She holds a master's degree in water science and is currently a non-executive director advisor and has 15 years experience in the water industry. I think also what's really good for us in terms of, the access to information and the kind of things is that Aisha is one of the lead inspectors that was involved in the Blue Drop and Green Drop reports. And so it will be good to get her perspective on those things. She's currently the sole director of AHL Water, which is a private consultancy providing holistic solutions for sustainable water services to both municipal and commercial clients. And also, AHL is proud to support various NGOs. I have to say that she's my dial person when I need to find out information on expert stuff. And they also work with Gift of the Givers in terms of boreholes and etc. So we'll find out more about Aisha when we get to that. Thank you. And then the second person is Taryn. Taryn, if you could just put your video on and wave to the people. Thank you. So Taryn, for many of you, you might know her, but she's a founder of a non-profit organization called Hanops Revival. And for her, the state of the Hanops River is, ecologically speaking, in a heightened state of trauma caused by systematic abuse through the reckless actions followed by neglect of both public and private sectors. And if many of you know Taryn, you know that you'd find her most of the days traipsing around the Hanops River, cleaning, taking photographs, finding the culprits that are polluting in terms of chemicals. But I think what is really interesting is that Taryn describes water as a tool that can heal. And I think that is not just, I think many indigenous religions, indigenous groups, cultures also see that healing in water. And so she instinctively knew that through her love for water, coupled with her extensive social networks, and Taryn's got a massive network, that she would build the resources she needs to build, Hanops Revival and to take care of the river. I just need to say this one thing is, since the formation, she and the volunteers she works with and other groups that she's worked with, I think, Taryn, when you do speak, you'll tell us how long you've been doing this, but you've removed 91,666 bags of waste from the river, which is almost 2 million kilograms of waste. The Taryn and the Hanops Revival have also achieved many awards. They've got South African Prestige Awards, Mail and Garden Greening the Future Awards, and there's a long list of awards that Taryn has received for herself as well as on behalf of Hanops Revival. Our third panelist is Bulelwa Klassen. Bulelwa yes, thank you. So Bulelwa describes herself as a youth activist, and that's also fantastic that we have the young person on our panel today with a vast experience in environmental work. She's worked on issues around climate change and on anti-nuclear work as well. She's also a founder of a feeding scheme, which she will talk to in a minute. She has worked with, working with people on the ground on basic needs, on environmental needs. She's also part, and she represents EarthLife Africa, and she works with EarthLife Africa on the Presidential Climate Commission. So she has, climate change as well as water justice issues, as she's also part of the Water Crisis Committee. Now, I should have mentioned that Bulelwa is based in Gqeberha, so you can imagine the water challenges that they're having in that area, and she will definitely be filling us in on some of the issues around the water in that area, especially with sewage that runs through the townships where she lives and how they're dealing with that. So that's a short, I don't think that this introduction does any of these people, amazing women, justice, but I think it is a start, and I'm so glad to be able to have them here today to give us much more insight into the work that they do. So thank you very much. I'm going to start the panel. We're going to start with Aisha. And in terms of, Aisha will be talking about a few things. One is that she's going to briefly look at, the status quo of water. So basic overview of the Bloom and Green Drop. But also what I like is that she's going to touch on women in water, the kind of careers that women are taking on, the role models, and then she'll talk about citizens' action. And that's what we are as WaterCan. We want to build an activist citizen science network on water. And so this becomes an important part for us. So I will now hand over to Aisha, who will start her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Ferriel, and a pleasure definitely to be part of this prestigious presenters. I must say that Taryn is one of my water warriors. I think she's an absolutely amazing woman, and I hope that I can assist her as well going forward. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to begin by saying I am a water scientist. For me, one of the most important and powerful statements that we have about water, especially when looking at water, is that women are the users of water. We are the ones that are responsible for water all over the world. We're responsible for cooking and for cleaning and for bathing, for agriculture as well. And we therefore understand the need for water better than men. So I think we are ideally suited to answer all the water woes in the world. And we can definitely change the world if we do have access to water, especially women in rural areas. So I wanted to start by saying that, people think about water and think it's a male-dominated field. And what do I do when I work in water? I'm very passionate about water and women in water. And I think there's so many opportunities for women to participate in a professional space, in water. For example, you can be an engineer, you can be a lab technician, a process controller, work in instrumentation, be a scientist. And there's a variety of disciplines within the sciences and within water that you can actually participate in. So I've highlighted a few. There's waste beneficiation, there's food, energy, and water, policy, regulation, research and development, and my personal forte, water and wastewater treatment, operations and management. So I can talk a lot about that and how exciting it is there, but I just want to share some of the exciting pictures that I have when I work in water. So the picture on the top is when we're doing site inspections for a wastewater treatment plant, the Hervat wastewater treatment, one of the Hervat wastewater treatment plants. Proud to say that they are one of the few municipalities that actually receive Green Drop accreditation. And that plant in particular, as you can see, all the ladies in the pictures, they're all ladies. The plant is operated by these amazing women that operate and maintain the plant at the highest level of excellence, understanding all the biological processes. And then there's also testing water at taps, walk around testing the taps, getting to see what is happening, at the sites. And the picture at the bottom on the right-hand side is one of the process controllers I met during a site visit, diligently checking chlorine, although it doesn't have the resources that she needs, but makes sure that there is sufficient chlorine at the end of the day so that people are safe. And there are amazing women in water. So I wanted to put Taryn up here, but I decided that because she's on the panel, I'd like to also just share two of my role models. The one on the top is Dr. Michelle Kruger. She's a professional engineer. She's a general manager for water and infrastructure at SMEC, but she was also the advisor to the Minister of Water and Sanitation and a true expert as a process specialist in wastewater design, which is a very specialized male-dominated industry. And then the second one is Dr. Esper Nchube. She's the water quality specialist at Rand Water. She's the manager of process and technology. So she manages Rand Water, which is the largest water services bulk supplier in the Southern Hemisphere, and she's in charge of process technology. So these are some amazing women, and there's a lot of opportunities for women actually, to participate in the water space. So I'm going to tell you a bit about water quality, status of water quality in South Africa, because that's also my passion, but I think it's very important to this discussion, and especially as to what you, Dr. Ferriol, are doing in WaterCan as well. So according to the National Water Act and the Water Services Act, the Department of Water and Sanitation came up with incentive-based regulation and risk-based regulation to allow for proactive management and regulation of drinking water quality and wastewater. Now, this was based on legislative norms and standards, and there's two very important parts of the Water Services Act that is important to remember, is that the Water Services Authority, the WSA, must provide information to the department in terms of the Water Services Act. And under Section 82 of the Water Services, it says it's an offense to refuse information or give false information, and you're liable for imprisonment. So just an overview of the Blue Drop and the Green Drop programs, the incentive-based regulations. A Blue Drop or Green Drop audit is a full audit. It's compliance against set criteria, which includes risk management, and it measures performance and excellence. Then you also get a Blue Drop risk rating, or BDR or CRR, and that only assesses 4 critical areas within water services and gives a snapshot view of the status of water and wastewater. Why am I talking about this? Because that is the information that will tell us what the state of water is in South Africa. So the program was resumed in 2021, and you spoke about the full Blue Drop audit that was released last year. But the Green Drop audit with the Blue Drop risk rating was done in 2021. And this year, there will be a full Blue Drop audit that will be conducted with a mini Green Drop audit called the CRR. So the results of the 2021 Green Drop report, which you spoke about, the Green Drop audit does not only look at wastewater effluent quality, it looks at a number of criteria. It looks at capacity, looks at environmental management, it looks at financial management, it looks at technical management, and the actual quality of the wastewater. So the Green Drop audit value tells you whether the municipality has achieved effective wastewater management as a whole. So this is the results of the previous Green Drop audit, and 144 water service authorities were audited, 850 systems were audited. 22 only received Green Drop certification. That means they received 90% for all of this criteria, and that's only 2.6% of all the supply systems in the country. 334 of them are in a critical state. So this map shows you all the reds are very critical. The blues are the good ones, which you cannot even see here. And as you can see, we have got a lot of reds and yellows to show that it's in a poor state. These are some of the Green Drop certified systems, 7 in Gauteng, 3 in KZN, and 12 in the Western Cape. So it shows that the Western Cape is doing better. Last year, there was also a Blue Drop risk rating, which was conducted, and that gives you a key risk rating indicators. It only looks at 4 things. It's not a full assessment. It only looks at capacity, skills, water quality, and risk management. So if you look at the national profile, again here, we've got red is a critical and blue is a low, and the values in between. And you can see the Western Cape has been doing very well. Gauteng also doing well. KZN not so bad. Mpumalanga, Northern Cape. And the reds, you can see the Northwest is poorly performing. Free State also, Limpopo also. And overall, the Blue Drop risk rating tells you that it's a bit better than wastewater. You've got 48% of plants, of systems in the low risk category, and then 23% in the critical risk category. But what's important about the Blue Drop risk report, because we're talking about water quality, it says there's 2 very important determinants that were evaluated in the Blue Drop risk rating, and that is the water quality itself. So according to the Blue Drop risk rating that was published in 2021, the water quality for the past 12 months in the country that was assessed, that is for the year 2021, shows that only 40% of the systems are safe for microbiological compliance. That means 40% of the systems in the country, you can drink the water without fear of getting some kind of gastrointestinal infection or possibility of infection. 55% are not safe. Chemical compliance is even worse, with only 23% of the systems actually complying with chemical determinants. And what does that mean? It means that the balance of these systems in the country pose a serious health risk to consumers in these supply systems. And then we come to our citizen science. What does that mean for you as a citizen? So your poor effluent quality or pollution in the river means that you have a deterioration in river quality. As we all know, the rivers are in a very poor state. What does that mean? You cannot use the water for what it was intended. Limited use of water for agriculture, industry, and recreation. And you need additional requirement treatment to bring it up to the standard that you need. So you cannot even use it for agriculture of certain kinds of crops. You cannot use it for certain industry. You cannot use it for recreation. And the other negative effect is that your conventional water treatment fails to purify the water, and you have poor quality tap water. So what you have is the the situation currently in Hammanskraal. The water that is coming, that is abstracted by the treatment plant, the Temba water treatment plant, is not river water. It is literally sewage water because it is coming from a contaminated source. That treatment plant cannot produce good quality water for potable standards because it's not designed for that. So literally you need to have a wastewater reclamation plant to treat that water to potable standards. So what can you do as citizens? So there's two things you can do. If you can monitor a river water quality, which is what you're trying to do is WaterCan. Great initiative by OUTA, especially do visual inspections and also use of that iLab water testing kit that you are promoting. And it's a very valuable tool to verify the safety of the water and indicate the presence of pathogenic organisms. So if you see there's pathogenic organisms in the water, what do you do if there are failures? You collect samples upstream and downstream of where you think this pollution is, and then you do an analysis by an accredited laboratory to ensure what is actually the quality of the water. And the results, if they confirm this pollution, then you have various options. You can contact your municipality and DWS and hope there would be some directives and force a municipality to comply, or you had prosecution of polluters, and hopefully they would be required to remediate the river. So citizen science is very powerful. This is what you can do. Now, what about your water quality? So what you can do is your tap water quality. You can check your water quality on the government system, which is called IRIS, the Integrated Regulatory Information System of the Department of Water and Sanitation. This is where all municipalities have to upload their monthly compliance monitoring data. That means they monitor the data of their water and wastewater effluent, which they monitor on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, and they register it on the IRIS system. So you can check the water quality on IRIS, okay? And what do you check on IRIS? Go on the website, it's extremely interesting. It tells you there's a dashboard and it tells you what is the quality. You can find out what is your water quality. You put in the name of your suburb and you will see what the water quality is for the past month. You can also see an overview of the entire country. And you can also see the state of the river. You can put in the name of the river and it will tell you which wastewater treatment plants are discharging into that river and what is the state of the effluent that they have submitted for the past month. So you can see these treatment plants are not working well. And you also have a detailed overview of the effluent. And what that will do, this is I just took a screenshot of IRIS to show the national overview of Gauteng. And it tells you what is your acute health, what is your chemical health, chronic health. And it's a very easy indication that tells you whether it's blue or it's green or it's red, and it will tell you which ones are safe to drink or not to drink. I see Ekurhuleni has got red. I see Midvaal has got red. We are in Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, there's blue. So you can go in and interrogate even in each one of them to see what the quality of water is. Once you see that, you can also use your iLab test kit to verify the presence of these organisms. And what you can do is you then engage with the municipality and they are supposed to issue boil water notices. So this is a very powerful tool. Please use it. Please check the quality and use this information. I've come to the end of my short presentation. I just want to say I'm a member of WISA, which is the Water Institute of South Africa. We represent all the water professionals in South Africa. We aim to inspire everyone in South Africa to have a passion for water, and so that we can ensure that water is available for future generations. Please join WISA. We have water professionals from every discipline. We can assist you. Also publish the Water and Sanitation magazine. And it's a very valuable resource that can assist you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. I think that was really, really great in terms of giving us an understanding. And yes, I agree with you. We at WaterCan have been using IRIS. We have been telling people and groups that we're working with to go onto IRIS and check their local municipality. So that is definitely a good thing. And also, I think what you're saying is right, is in terms of citizen science testing, so that we can double check. Because the stats that you've given us, and we know about the blue drop and green drop, is scary. You know, just and also if you go into IRIS and you look at the My River and you do all, you'll just get a map of South Africa with hundreds of red dots, and that in itself is scary in terms of the state of our rivers. I think that one of the things we're doing is, you know, we know that municipalities have to test, and then according to legislation, and send it to national government. We're trying to say as WaterCan that kind of results need to be more publicly accessible. And we as citizens need to know the quality of water that we are drinking. Thank you so much, Aisha. I think that's going to be, you know, people, if you have questions, please keep them. We'll have, you know, you can type them into the chat box as soon as all our people are finished, all our panelists are finished. I'd like to move on to the next person, which is Bulelwa. And just to say that we've asked, you know, in terms of what we want Bulelwa to speak about, is that, you know, we all looking from far away, looking at Gqeberha and day zero, because we all know that that's what's been happening. We know that, you know, Gift of the Givers have gone in to drill boreholes, but we want to know from someone who's living there and as a water activist, what are your water challenges in your area? In particular, tackling the water issues in your area. And then if you can also, you know, being part of the Presidential Climate Commission, I think that we'd like to know as well, what are the kind of discussions going on there in terms of water? Are you raising the issues of the challenges that people are facing on the ground in that Presidential Climate Commission, so that the work is not high level and it takes into account things that are going on at a local level? Also, I've spoken to Bulelwa a few times, and I'd love for you to just share some of the positive outcomes of your work on water. Thank you. Over to you, Bulelwa. You've got 10 to 12 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Faraya. My name is Bulelwa Clausen, as Dr. has said already. I'm from the Eastern Cape, Gqeberha, with a feeding scheme called Siyangoba. The water challenges that I think the area has is that there is scarcity of water, something that everyone that in the country is crying about recently. So there is no water at all. At times, kids do not go to school because there is no water. At some point, there are schools that close earlier than the time that should be closing at, because there is no water at all. In terms of my feeding scheme, I've had quite a challenge because I do not cook anymore, and there is load shedding also that is affecting us. So with load shedding and the water that is not there for me to use, it's quite hard to cook for people in my area. So the way I think that it's impacting my work is that it's not necessarily impacting my work, but it's impacting the people who I fit in the area, because the people now are not able to get the food that I supply them with. Problem is that there is no communication from the government or the municipality in our area. There is no communication in terms of when the water will be closed, or will they provide water for us, or whatsoever. We'd find that you go to sleep, there is water, and then when you wake up, there is no water, which is sort of a problem because kids have to go to school, bathe in the water. We have to go to work, and we can't go to and work because there is no water to wash, and there is no water to do anything. As Dr. Aisha has already said, that we women suffer the most because everything that has to do with water involves us. We are the one who wake up and prepare everyone in our homes for going to wherever they are going. So about the positive outcomes, it's still a work in progress because just not so long ago we had a picket, and on that picket, there was some kind of resolution because we met with a mayoral executive, and he promised us that there will be an follow-up meeting after the one that we had. We had a peaceful march in Utnik, Karega, and then we gave them our memorandum, and we sort of had a talk with him, and he said that he will get back to us with the answers from the mayoral committee. As everybody knows, our municipality has too many problems. Now there's a restructuring of the mayoral committee. The mayoral committee was consisted of ANC members. Now there's been a change of things in that office. So in terms of us trying to get answers, you would find that the infightings, they do not sort of give us any clear indication of when we will get the answers. Again, on the PCC, mainly we are there for a just transition in energy, but it's not restricted not to talk about other matters that concern the communities that we are in. The PCC, I think June, we had some consultations in Joburg where we went and talked about matters that concern climate change and environmental justice. So on the matter of climate change, we also talked about the water crisis that we have as a country. We found out that climate change is one of the most things that cause the water crisis. There is no rain in order for people to harvest rain, or for the government to harvest rainwater and make it to human consumable water. Also, the climate change, as everybody has seen, there has been floods in KZN, and some extreme weather patterns that we have never experienced before, which lead to drought in the Eastern Cape, the drought that we are experiencing, and then having no water. So the Presidential Climate Commission is a commission that deals with energy, but at some point we do indulge into things like your water, your climate crisis, and everything else. When it comes to our municipalities that Dr. Aisha was talking about, we saw that they've arrived in Port Elizabeth to distribute water, but what I can tell you is that we haven't heard any bottle of water that has come from the Gift of the Givers. I will speak for my area. In the Zwide area, there was no water that was supplied from the Gift of the Givers, and I saw in the news that there were taps that were designated for people to go and get water from them. But I can say to you that I have never seen a tap for water standing in my area for people to help the people around in my area if there's no water. There's a lot of things that I could talk about in regards to the government and the municipalities about water, but I want to focus on the things that the Water Crisis Committee does. In terms of the leaks, I can tell you, we take pictures, we take videos. Being the limited number that we are of people, I think that we get little reports, whereas there are many areas that have water leaks. At some point, I saw a video where a leak was splashing very hard, like I was stunned at the point the water were coming out. And I thought that what I'm seeing is this too much water could feed a whole community, could help the whole community, could supply the whole community, in fact. We try and take pictures and videos and send them to the group, and then the group tries and mitigate on that. Whereas you would say that, okay, a certain area, the leak has been stopped. Oh, that is a good thing, but we need more and more people to join in on the groups. And also about the sewage, oh, that is the pits. There's an area that is called Endlovini, which is situated after Zwide. I think it's called Kiwane or something like that. That area, the sewage there, no one deserves to live in the area. And the people in that area have been in that area for more than 10 years, and they have been living like that. I think the problem is with the pipes, but then if the problem is with the pipes, why hasn't the municipality found ways to fix that? Because if we go to that area continuously, we'd go to the area to do cleanups, you'd clean up, but then the water, the sewage water is remaining there. It's quite a saddening situation. It's not a place for humans to live. And you'd find that almost now 90% of the streets in Port Elizabeth have sewer pipes blockages. And I can vouch for this because most of the time I am the one posting the videos on the group. There is a group called hashtag The Ish Is Real, where we post about the sewage running on our streets, and we try and fix some of the problems. There is a gentleman called Gary Kukamor. He's the one who's mitigating on our behalf. So we take videos and send to the group, and then he sends help. So most of the time there is help that is done, but then there is something that is done. But then 80% of the blockages are not properly fixed. You'd find that you'd report a leakage today, and next week you'd find that the same place that you have reported as having issues and problems. So I think initiatives like this and those awarenesses on women in water are such a good platform to educate us, people who come from the poor communities and who want to make something out of our communities. I think they are a good platform. And I think that's just about it, Dr. Farrell. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bulelwa. I think you've raised so many of the issues that I think across the country, people are experiencing it. And so thank you for sharing. I think the one thing that I take from what you were saying is that you're living the food, water, energy nexus. And it was quite clear that those are connected and it's affecting people. So it's not Eskom on its own. It's not water issues on its own. It's not food, access to food on its own. I think we need to look at all of these issues intertwined. And another thing is, and that's something we also challenging, and I think many organizations in South Africa are challenging, is the lack of access to information and the lack of availability of local municipalities to assist. But I also take the strength and the activism that are creating the change you want to see. And that is important. And that's something that activist citizen science can do to hold people accountable for the pollution that we're experiencing. Thank you so much, Bulelwa. That was really insightful. Our final speaker before we open for some questions is Taryn. Taryn has been working on the HANOPS, and I think maybe, I know lots of people know Taryn, but I think Taryn, maybe just share what you are doing on the HANOPS. How did you get there, and what are some of the challenges that you are facing in terms of the water resource? I mentioned the many bags of waste that you are pulling out of the water, but also, where to from here? Do you just keep taking out the waste? What is your action to make sure that this changes, that we actually, as South Africa, start taking better care of our rivers? And then as a side issue, can you share some of the strangest things you've found along your cleanup?
I'll do that. Yeah, definitely. So, the whole inspiration behind the movement actually came from my daughter. She was 12 at the time. She's now almost 15. And she said, Mom, I want to do a river cleanup. And you know how us mothers can be. I jumped to the task and I started reaching out to friends and posting on social media. We're going to have a river cleanup. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself in for, and also no intention of ever doing it again. But once I actually got down there myself and saw the state of the water, I realized, because I had grown up in the area and played in those same canals, and when I saw the black, whatever it is, running through those canals, I was like, oh my goodness, we literally do not have time. And that is the bottom line. So I don't have time to point fingers, blame, shame, name any. I have time for action, and that is it. So what can I do? Single mom, not a hell of a lot of money, but I have hands and I've got a voice. So I, you know, as Dr. Farrell said earlier, I've worked through a lot of trauma, my own trauma, and this is actually a result of my own healing journey in having dealt with my own trauma to be able to deal with this massive trauma that is reflected to us in our water, because I believe that water carries with it a huge amount of pain. And it's a reflection. It's a reflection of the pain that the society is in. It's a reflection of the brokenness of the system. It's a reflection of a disconnection to ourselves as beings that are made up of water. So with that, I looked deeper into the whole thing, reconnected to the water within me. And knowing that, you know, I was really sick, and I healed myself just with water. So no matter what medicine I was taking, I wasn't getting better. And then a friend of mine suggested that I do a 72-hour water fast, so water only for 72 hours. And I got better without any medicine, just on water. And I was convinced that water itself is a healer. Obviously, it was not Henoch's water I was drinking. I was drinking very good water, but it was my medicine. And so I started just going day by day with a friend of mine, picking up whatever rubbish we could, packing it in bags, and then hosting cleanups every 2 weeks, which then led me to believe that it would be a good idea to start an NPO and to form some partnerships and relationships going forward, so that this movement can grow. And so I started the Henoch Survival nonprofit in November of 2019, and it was 3 weeks later, and we had the massive floods of 2019, and that was my welcome to the Henoch party. I was like, sink or swim, honey. Are you in? How deep is your love? So I was in. Obviously, I was literally in there helping people out of the floods, and we started an emergency temporary accommodation for the flood victims, generating a massive amount of donations for the flood victims and assisting them. And then within the 3 months from that, we had the hard lockdown. So again, I was called to action and started up 3 of the homeless shelters here in Centurion for the hard lockdown. But as soon as I could, I got back to the river, because that was my commitment. I'd now made a commitment to the water, which obviously then in turn equals a commitment that I've made to each and every living being on the planet. So my primary focus will always remain the water, but I started creating jobs for the guys that I had looked after in the shelter, guys that I had actually met along the riverbanks, And as funds come in, we create as much work as possible. At this point, yes, we have removed, it's 91,666 bags of waste. It's actually just a little more than that because we've done yesterday and today as well. But by the time we turn 3, we will have over 100,000 bags of waste that we removed, and definitely over 2 million kilograms. And then on the community side of things, we host community volunteer days where people can come from the community and then just join in and give back. And you know, really we make it quite a lot of fun. We have music and DJs and dancing and planting trees and just doing what we can with what we have. And yeah, so like Dr. Farrell says, we have won quite a lot of awards since inception, quite a lot last year actually. I just returned from Europe from a competition that I won for Climate 360, and I went with 5. Well, we were 5 winners. We went to Belgium and France, and I presented to the European Commission as well as the French Agency for Biodiversity. So that was a really great experience to have had. And yeah, we are, like Warren says, we are going to have our next cleanup on Women's Day. So we tend to keep our cleanups to, you know, the big environmental days. We start in February because, you know, December, January, kind of rainy season, so it's a little bit problematic to have a fixed date. So we start in Feb with Wetlands Month. March we have World Water Day, April Earth Day, and then May we find a day somewhere. June is World Environment Day, and so on. So we stick to the, you know, the big organized days for community events. And then you wanted to know, let me just quickly check here, the challenges that we're facing. Yeah, because obviously this isn't something that we want to do for the rest of our lives. We need to address a lot of the brokenness that is, you know, what is the reflection of our water. So we've got poverty issues that need to be addressed. There's service delivery issues that need to be addressed. Obviously the big educational elements that is hugely lacking because people don't even know what it's like to have a clean river anymore. It's few and far between. Obviously with the service delivery, people, you know, and the education, if you know, you can provide all the education that you like, if you haven't actually got the means and the, you know, the facilities to dispose of your waste, then, you know, what are you going to do with it anyway? You know, and as well, if you don't have a home, everybody says, well, take your rubbish and throw it in your bin. But if you don't have one, and if there isn't one on the street, what do you do with it? So there's a lot of issues that we need to address in terms of, you know, especially like street littering and then habitual littering. And then we've also got people like us who will go out for dinner with our families and then feel sorry for the guy who's standing at the robot and give him your takeaway box, and then he doesn't have a dustbin to throw it in. So it ends up going into the stormwater drains and it ends up in the rivers as well. So, you know, there's a lot of really fundamental issues that that need to be dealt with. Obviously, there's a lot of enforcement issues that are hugely problematic, and I know that the wastewater treatment works have done the report back and come back as 83% compliant, but then I don't understand what that means, because how is that compliance calculated? What do you need to do in order to receive X amount of compliance? Because I've seen the water that's coming out of the wastewater treatment works. It is not, you can't drink it. So, you know, those are questions that need to be addressed. So there's that from that aspect. And then just to touch on your last question, the weirdest thing that I have found in the river was a bright pink dildo. It was quite a surprise. Yeah. We picked it up with a rake, and I've actually got a photo of it. It was very funny. That was definitely the strangest thing. But you know, lots and lots and lots of things. Everything. There's everything that you can imagine in that river.
Thank you, Taryn. Thank you so much. I mean, I think that you're raising a few things that people forget. And one is that there are people who still are dependent on the river as places where they live. And in times of floods, we forget that there are people that are living quite close and affected by it. Thanks for that reminder. I think also, you know, you've mentioned some of the challenges, and definitely you link up the politics of local government, you know, in terms of lack of service delivery. But also, I think you're raising an issue of all South Africans are guilty. I mean, most South Africans are guilty, and that we all need to play a part in protecting and building the rivers around us and cleaning the water around us. But I think that it's not just the fact that people don't have dustbins, but I think that if you're finding the things that you're finding, you know, that's across the board. So I think that all South Africans need to come to the water party and bear responsibility. But the bottom line and the key thing is that the government, as the people who are supposed to be taking care of our water, are completely failing, whether it's national, province, or local. And as activists and citizen scientists from all the panelists we've heard, that I think we need to start raising our voices. We need to be changing what's happening, because it's not going to, if we look at the state of our local government, it's not going to happen at local government level. We as activists and citizen scientists need to be able to change that. You've also raised the issue of compliance, which is a really big thing, because industries and companies are getting away with complete pollution. You have put pictures of bright blue and white stuff flowing in rivers, and we don't know who is polluting, but we don't even have proper enforcement. So people are getting away with pollution, and that is something also that needs to be monitored. So we have about a few minutes left. I think we'll try to go maybe 5 minutes over, but if you have any questions, please put it in your chat, and we can raise it. Or if you want to ask a question, please let us know. I think there was a question. We're going to take 2 or 3 questions, so it's not too many. In terms of the waste that you've collected, Taryn, what do you do with it? I mean, I think, you know, I can answer for you, but you please go ahead.
Okay, so as much as we can, we do try, not always, because a lot of it is very toxic and very contaminated. So it just literally, you grab it, a handful of it, and you just whack it into a bag. But where we can recycle, we do try. And especially with our community events, then we get our, you know, community recycling partners in with us. And then they have the bags, and we separate the plastic into, you know, different categories, and glasses and cans and all that type of thing. What we're doing this Women's Day is one of the winners of the same competition that I won, which went over to Europe with me. She has a business called Ramtsilo Trading, and they actually make bricks from plastic waste. So she's going to be taking that plastic waste from the cleanup. Obviously, you know, because it goes through machines, it can't be too dirty or too full of sand and mud. So we will aim for the ones that are stuck in the trees, that have, you know, come from the flood debris, which we can then send off to recycling. But unfortunately, most of what we take out actually does go to landfill at this stage.
Thanks, Taryn.
And just on that, do you mind if I just quickly mention, you know, the issue of the waste pickers and the informal recyclers that, you know, a lot of people are complaining about, and look, I'm not going to deny that do make a big mess, and it is it's a real big eyesore. But how I see it is that it actually raises the awareness of the community around the condition of the environment. So it is, you know, while it is, you know, it's an eyesore and it's an unpleasant thing to have to look at, it does bring awareness to the fact that we as the consumers are not separating our waste before we put it out with our general waste. And then that, as a result, when the waste pickers come through and pick from our dustbins, they need to go and wash it at their water sources, which is our rivers again. So we are basically just throwing our food waste into our rivers. It's us. It all boils down to us.
Thanks, Darren. No, you raise an important point. I mean, the waste pickers of South Africa are very organized. You know, it's not just guys walking around, and women. It's an organized sector, and they actually responsible for the bulk of South Africa's renewable recycling of waste. And so that, you know, that is an important sector that we cannot ignore. I have one question, and then I think we're done. It is from Richard. Is what monitoring of the state of our streams and rivers is being undertaken by DWS, which is the national department, through their catchment management agencies? Aisha, do you want to take that question?
Yes, thanks, Dr. Ferriol. There is monitoring being undertaken by the catchment management agencies, but that information is not readily available. There is a database that you can go on DWS's website to get the information, but how that information is being used by DWS to manage the river resources, I don't know. And I think it's also linked to the lack of the catchment management agencies being established for all of the different catchments. So where there is a strong catchment management agency, yes, they do use the information like the Inkomati or Sutu, but the other ones, I don't know if they are happening and what they are doing with that information. Thanks.
So thank you, Aisha. I mean, I think I concur with what you're saying, is that there are some that work well, but there are some that don't. And the majority of them don't work well. And also the whole idea of catchment management forums is supposed to bring in the different sectors to work together and talk about the catchment area. And I think if we look at how it's been operated, it hasn't been really good. In the VAL, though, I think the VAL Environmental Justice Alliance has been good in terms of, as a civil society group and movement, to monitor and to hold government responsible for having those catchment management forums and for doing what they say they're going to do. I think on that note, there's a few things. One is, yes, I think that each person has had a different expertise and activism that they're doing in terms of water, all relevant, all important. I think that also what we're seeing is that it's a systemic issue. Our state of our water resources is not, we need to not look at it as just an environmental issue. It is a systemic issue. It is linked to corruption. It is linked to the state of our government. And I think it is time for us to build our activism on the ground to actually be able to monitor and better take care of our water resources, our environment. I think that I'm calling on all that are listening and who are here today to join us from the 14th to the 18th to monitor our water resources, to test water around. We're testing tap water, river water. And I think, imagine the power of having citizen data that we can compare to government data, because there have been comments that said, you know, it might be that the reports say that certain municipalities have done well. People living in those areas can counter that. So that is something that we can do, and then we build our activism from that. I think there was a question also from Tim that says, what is the end game? I think it's an ongoing it's an ongoing kind of activism. Activism doesn't end now. And I think given the state of our water resources, it's a long road. It's not going to be solved immediately. But I think that's why we have these amazing women, we have amazing organizations, and we have amazing activists that are doing stuff around the country. WaterCan is new on the field, and we are inspired each day by all the work that you, Taryn, Bulelwa, Aisha are doing. And we thank you so much for being on our panel. We thank all the people who have attended, and we look forward to seeing you again for the next sessions that we'll be having. But also, please be part of our water testing over 14th to 18th September, not August, September. And we will keep you posted. Be part of it, take a picture, show us that you are testing your water, and let's get South Africans talking about the quality of our water. I think that is the way we're going to make sure that we change our pollution, change our behavior, and transform the water services to something better. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a fantastic day.